The commodification of African Americans in the 1960s in movies is an important question. By asking this question, we can analyze the roles given and change how African Americans are described in the films. African American actors were not cast in serious, authentic roles. These roles promoted systematic racism and emotional segregation. I will discuss the historical context of African Americans in Hollywood, the stereotypical roles, and the start of blaxploitation. After the Civil War, African Americans were freed. This is when segregation became a huge deal. In a significant time in history, segregation made it so that African Americans were freed, but were separated. Basically, they can only drink out of their water fountain, and whites can drink out of their own water fountain. The historical context of African Americans in movie roles is very important in understanding commodification during the 1960s. There are 6 representations of African Americans during the movie films. 1 is Tom, the 2nd is Coon, 3rd, Bad Buck, next, Mammy, Tragic Mulatto, and then last but not least, Buddy or Psychic. These representations led to limited roles and roles with little value. These roles given were not based on talent, but instead on how well they could portray the stereotypical role needed in the film. The first role is Tom. Tom was a well-liked, kind-hearted man who was willing to endure white domination. The next role is Coon. This role was represented by selfishness and ignorance, as well as very little drive to ambition. A Coon would like to entertain people, and this role was mainly created for comedic purposes. African American directors, writers, and actors were forced to act out these stereotypical roles, or their films would be rejected. This created lasting internalized racism with the African American community, and some of the writers and directors fought against this. This is just one set of stereotypical roles that represented African Americans in 1960s. The next role is Bad Buck. In films, the Bad Buck character was a violent character who had built up rage. In this role, African Americans were physically strong and threatening to whites. Not only that, but it was also justified racial violence. This stereotype also dehumanized African Americans, making it nearly impossible for African American men to be seen as victims, heroes, lovers, and leaders in popular crime. This also limited the roles to be played by African Americans. The Mamie role was portrayed as a large and loud black lady. This lady in the movie is an older, overweight, usually nurturing woman. These movie roles are a housekeeper, a nanny, or a role that is nurturing and loyal. The 5th role is Mulatto. Mulatto is a mixed-race woman who is found exotic and sexually attractive, especially towards white men. Typically, this role dies at the end of the movie or sometime during the movie. This role has been used to reinforce white supremacy and the ideals that portrays racial mixing and tragic or dangerous. The last role African Americans had to fill in movies is the sidekick / buddy. This character was to support the main white character. Many of these characters did not get the scene in the story. This caused the character to develop less in the story. Not only that, but this role was used to enhance the main character who was a white person. Segregation, according to dictionary.cambridge.org, is the policy of keeping one group of people apart from another and treating them differently, especially because of race, sex, or religion. This is also how racism and stereotypes towards this race started. These roles in movies started due to segregation and the stereotypes that white people created. As explained earlier, the lack of quality and meaningful roles for black actors only created monetary gains for Hollywood. Actor Sidney Poitier was one of the first significant black actors in Hollywood. His role created an illusion that movie makers were working towards racial equality in among actors. The most significant actor in the 1960s is Sidney Poitier. He was used in Hollywood as a safe actor. Sidney Poitier is an African American actor who broke barriers in African American films. He was the first to win a significant award for his role in a movie called Lilies in the Field. By the end of the 1960s, blaxploitation was created. During this time, African Americans were cast in movies aimed at black audiences. More people were staying home to watch television. Focusing on the African American population created a demand for Hollywood to produce movies that targeted black audience. One positive outcome of blaxploitation is that it allowed African Americans to be featured as a main character rather than a sidekick. Not only did it open the door for many African American actors and writers who were largely excluded. There are 5 main points to blaxploitation: African American protagonists and empowerment, urban settings and social themes, soundtrack and style, controversy and criticism, and cultural impact and legacy. The first point of blaxploitation is the African American protagonist and empowerment. Blaxploitation films typically use strong, assertive African American leads, more often anti-heroes who resisted oppression and took control of their narratives. The next point of blaxploitation is the urban setting and social themes. These types of films were often set in inner city neighborhoods and reflected real-life struggles with poverty, crime, police brutality, and systematic racism. The third main point of blaxploitation is the soundtrack and style. Funk and soul music, often composed by top black artists, were integral to the film style and identity. Fashion, slang, and bold visual aesthetics also define the genre. The fourth main point of blaxploitation is controversy and criticism. While blaxploitation allowed African American filmmakers to make such films, they were also criticized for reinforcing negative stereotypes, glorifying violence and crime, and being exploited of the African American culture. The African American leading roles during this genre were portrayed as either pimps, drug dealers, gangsters, or vigilantes. African American women were portrayed as hypersexual figures or sidekicks. The last and final main point of blaxploitation is cultural impact and legacy. These movies paved the way for future actors. These movies put African American actors in lead roles, but not sophisticated roles. These films were created to focus on the culture of violence, sex, and crime, a specific combination to target African American experiences to generate a profit. Even though blaxploitation was a short-lived moment, it left a lasting imprint on African American identity in media. In conclusion, movie roles for African American actors in the 1960s were nothing more than Hollywood moneymakers. Stereotypical roles were given by black actors. By doing this, Hollywood promoted bias and emotional segregation. The movie industry came a long way since the 1960s. Current movie roles deposit African American actors in different light. Actors like Sidney Poitier paved the way for actors like Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan. The movie Black Panther has an almost all African American cast. All of these characters in the movie play powerful and influential roles. These characters are smart, and the Black Panther is the movie's hero. Another notable movie is The Men in Black. The main character is an African American Will Smith. The secondary character sidekick is Tommy Lee Jones. Movie roles in the 1960s for African American actors were for the commodification for Hollywood.